At anong kulay na pang wax mo? Dahil anong kulay ng machine mo? Kainis na pinapalitan ko to ng pink, hindi pinapalitan.
Nag-reply pa siya.
Nag-okay pa, pero hindi pinapalitan.
Hindi automatic serum. 1 star.
Hindi, maganda yung product. 4 lang to.
Good afternoon. Good evening na. So, mag-start na ako mag-discuss kasi medyo madami akong ini-discuss. So, para sa Saturday, hindi na muna tayo mag-. Okay?
Sige po, sir.
Okay, so ang subject natin for this sem is supply chain management tsaka yung IE capstone project. So, dalawa yung ating subject ngayon. And then, ganun pa rin. So, since hindi pa rin aprobado ang face-to-face, then we stick with the policy of the POTD niyan when it comes to webinars. So, online tools. So, 6 meetings, and then 2 quiz, and 1 final exam. So, for supply chain management. For capstone, I will discuss it later. So, we have several topics for supply chain management. So, for now, we will discuss the first 3 dahil nga we try to limit our discussion to 6 meetings. Unlike yung hindi pa natin na-try magkaroon ng discussion sa online setup. Gawa nung last sem naman, ang subject naman natin is project management, which is also an output-based type of subject. So we'll start with the introduction of the supply chain management. So first, what is the supply chain? So supply chain consists of all parties involved directly or indirectly in fulfilling a customer requirement. So all facilities, function, activities associated with the flow and transformation of goods and services from raw materials to customer, as well as the associated information flows. So it's an integrated group of processes to source, make, and deliver products. So ang supply chain management is more of yung integration of the other processes from the supplier, then dun sa ating backflow, yung sa front natin, and then yung sa internal internal process, then even sa supplier, and then dun sa after yung process after the finished product. So, ang purpose nun is to integrate, magkaroon ng communication with other functions, and then as well as to have a network or a group of networks. And then also for the supply chain, it really involves the logistics. So kaya kailangan natin ng logistics. And later on, we will discuss the difference between the logistics and the supply chain. Now, given all the networks that we discussed earlier, so ito yung parang representation of what supply chain is. So meron tayo dyan yung it involves the inventory and warehouse cost, transportation cost, production purchase cost. It all integrates into one point. So meron lang tayong several nodes. So, ini-include ang lahat ng pwede nating network. For the supply chain management, it is the management of the flow of goods. The goal or mission of the supply chain management can be defined as increased throughput while simultaneously reducing both inventory and operating expenses. It's not really integrating lang. So we have to be efficient and for the purpose of reducing the cost. Supply chain management is primarily concerned with the efficient integration of suppliers, factories, warehouses, and stores so that the merchandise is produced and distributed in the right quantities to the right location and at the right time, and so as to minimize total system cost subject to satisfying customer service requirements. Supply chain management has been defined as the design, planning, execution, control, and monitoring of supply chain activities with the objective of creating net value, building a competitive structure, leveraging worldwide logistics, synchronizing supply with demand, and measuring performance globally. So ito yung ating example. Although it is not really applicable in the Philippines kasi yung setup imagine niyo na lang, if for example, itong ano natin, itong example natin would be on the Philippine setup. So for example, you have your company at Shopwise supermarket. So we want to incorporate din yung connection natin with the supplier. So we need the supply chain from the other distributor. Like for example, this one in PNG and other manufacturer, or rather, we take an example as yung PNG ang ating center. So yung supplier niya is yung plastic producer, then eco-packaging, chemical manufacturer, and so on. Tapos yung plastic producer, meron ka din connection with the chemical manufacturer. So sa eco-packaging, you need your paper, the timber industry, and so on. Tapos sa PNG, para sa kanyang distribution, we have your Shopwise and Shopwise supermarket as your target distribution. Okay. So ito is for the logistics side. So what is the benefits of supply chain management? It reduces uncertainty and risk in the supply chain. So this positively affects inventory, level, cycle time, business processes, and customer service. It also contributes to overall increase in profitability and competitive advantage. Since merong reduction ng risk, so ibig sabihin, mababa yung chance na mag-fail. So, ibig sabihin, meron kang natitipid. Mas mababa yung chance ng pagka-fail. So, meron ka ng increase in profitability, meron ka pang competitive advantage. We have the supply chain stages. So, ito yung mga networks na needed natin. We have your customer, your retailers, wholesaler, distributor, manufacturers, component, raw materials. So these are all interconnected. However, it is not compulsory that all the stages should be present in the supply chain. So pwedeng yung wholesaler is wala na for example lang, ang kanyang network is raw material supplier to manufacturer, then retailer na kagad, then going to customer. Tapos yung manufacturer, meron siyang contact with the what is the outcome in the customer, what are their feedbacks, and then meron siyang network with the raw materials when it comes to yung sa supply ng mga raw mats. Okay? So we have the supply chain stages, a set of approaches used to efficiently integrate. So we have the suppliers, manufacturer, also distribution center. So sabi ko kanina, hindi lahat to usually present. So pwedeng merong isa dyan na omit. Okay. So that the product is produced and distributed in the right quantities to the right location and time. So kung meron kang integration with all this component, so ma-allocate mo or malalaman mo yung tamang quantity na kailangan mo for your raw material, ilan ang kailangan mong i-supply for your finished goods, and kailan yung mga delivery time. So you have your right time at the right location in the right quantity. So it also system-wide costs are minimized and service level requirements are satisfied. So for the history of supply chain management, it all started with the inventory management focus cost control. So however, this one focuses on the internal lang setups, dun lang within the manufacturer lang. But in the 1970s, you have your MRP and yan, yung operations management. So, ito naman, yung MRT naman rather, it's more of the materials management. So, nagkaroon ng MRP 2, so nagkaroon ng planning, material management and planning. Yung JIT is just in time. Then on the 1990s, hindi lang yung materials management ang kinoconsider. So, pati yung logistics between the supplier. And then also yung sa backline ng process. So, kino-consider na rin yung delivery to the distributor. So, that is on the 1990, they introduced the ERP. Then on the 1990s then to 2000, you have your supply chain management. And meron yung tinatawag na yun na optimized value network with real-time decision support, synchronized and collaborative extended network for the supply chain. The objectives of the supply chain management is simply to satisfy the customer needs. Dahil nga you deliver the right quantities, the right location at the right time. You also maximize the overall value generated, increase supply chain surplus, and the high supply chain profitability. For the supply chain decisions, you have the design, planning, execution, control, and monitoring, just like the process we have in the project management. So parang ganun din. Similar din siya. You have your design, your planning, execution, how do you do it, and then kung ano lang, kung siya ay you have the results that is good, you have to just maintain it for the control, and then you monitor. Ensure effective flow of goods and information, cluster of stores near the distribution center, collaboration with suppliers, active effort to steer customer at real time, centralized manufacturing, worth of inventory, manage cash flow, and should be visible. Now we have the supply chain strategy or design. So paano ba natin ginagawa to? Dapat yung mga questions we have in mind is how to structure for the next several years. So kasi kung ano man yung setup mo within your company for this year may not be the same as for the next years, for the following years. So you have to structure it just how you imagine it would be like 2 to 3 years after. So what is the chain configuration? Ano ba yung kailangan mo networks that you have to integrate? Ano ba yung mga components dapat? How resource allocated? What process each stage will perform? Do you need outsourcing, in-house function, location, and capacities of production and warehouses? Modes of transportation and type of information system. Kung gagamit ka man ng mga softwares, so it's probably you have to use a software information system or yung mga IT software. However, ano ba yung dapat na gagamitin mo for that? For supply chain planning, you have the questions in mind that gaano ba ang itatagal nitong or how long does it take for you to do the supply chain management, and ano magiging forecast or the outcome for the coming years. The analysis demand in different markets, which market, location, subcontracting, inventory policies that are involved in the implementation, timing. Just lang Sorry. So yun nga. So which market, timing, size of marketing, and price promotion. For the supply chain operation, the execution side, ano ba ang iyong decision, the time for your decisions, weekly or daily operation decision, individual customer orders, allocation of inventory and production, set dates for activities, price promotion, generated lease for the warehouses, allocation of shipments, and schedule of Now we have the cycle view process divided into series of cycles. Each cycle occur at the interface between two successive stages of the supply. So it's the customer order cycle, replenishment cycle, manufacturing cycle, and the procurement cycle. So the cycle view of supply chain clearly define the process involved and the owner of each process. So this view is very useful when considering operational decision because it specifies the roles and responsibilities of each member of supply chain and the desired outcome of each process. We have divided it into two categories. So executive in response to a customer order or the pull process. So explain natin yan later. And then executive in anticipation of the customer order or the push process. So yung difference between push and pull categorize supply chain processes based on whether they are initiated in response to a customer order. Kung in response to a customer order o base ka lang sa demand, we call it the pull process. Or anticipation of the customer order, na-anticipate mo na kung ang order, called the push. So sabi niya dito, for compact, yung brand na compact, ano nga ba yung brand compact? Mga laptop to, no? Yeah, laptop yata. So all processes except for those involved in customer order cycles are all push type daw. So except for the customer order, kung nakabase pa rin sila, what is the customer order, other processes involved are push type. For Dell naman, Dell assemble its computer and to order, and therefore all processes except for those involved in the procurement cycle are considered pull. So generally, if possible, a full organization of the supply chain provides tighter control of the inventory cost and the ability to support higher level of product customization. So babalikan ko yung definition na yung pull is nakarelay siya sa customer order. So for example, yun nga, halimbawa let's say si Samsung, yung ano ba yung pinakabago? Let's say S22. Hindi ako sure kung yun na yung pinaka-latest. For example, S22 na cellphone. And then they rely on the pull process. So ibig sabihin, meron na mga pre-order sa kanila. Let's say 100. So 100 lang ang gagawin nila. Now, kung halimbawa, same brand, Samsung pa rin, S22 pa rin ang product. So they follow the push order. So for this push order, ina-expect nila na kapag ni-release nila tong S22, ang kanilang magiging order is 500. So they make 500 units of S22 kasi na-anticipate nila through forecasting that ang bibili ng kanilang product is 500. Now, my question is, which one is better? The pull or the push? Push process or the pull process? Anyone? Ano yung much better dun sa dalawa? Push or pull?
Pull po, sir.
Ha? Kasi, si June na yun. Kung pull, bakit pull?
Mas control po yung inventory. Ano po, sir?
Ano?
Para mas control po yung inventory.
Yes, mas tipid siya kumpara sa push kasi wala kang masasayang na product kung halimbawa ang gagamitin mo is pull. So meron may sasagot dyan ng push, which one is better? So may sumagot na ng pull. So terms of control, mas okay ang pull. So meron sasagot ng push. Ano magiging advantage naman kung push ang gagamitin natin?
Sir, ako po. Bali, okay po sa akin yung push. Kasi po, sir, ano po, parang ready-made na po kasi yung product, which is masasatisfy niya po yung demand po ni customer. Bali, parang hindi po mag-aalala yung parang mga customer na magkakaubusan po ng ganong product.
Tama yun. Kasi kung yung pull, assurance siya sa manufacturer, ang push naman is assurance mo sa customer that you deliver your product on time, and then yun nga, nasatisfy mo yung demand ng customer kasi na-anticipate mo na yun. So yun. Meron siya both advantage and disadvantages. Kaya lang, depende sa type ng product na gagawin mo, ang type ng process na gagamitin mo. So either pull or push. Usually for large equipment or costly equipment, much better ang pull. But kung halimbawa mga necessity yan or perishables, yung push naman ang kailangan. Or mas advantageous ang push naman. Okay? Now we have the supply chain. So ito yung kanyang mga advantages. So parang kung si pull naman, ano mo lang siya, baliktaran mo lang yan dito, then consider it as the advantage or the disadvantage of pull. So yung push daw is classical manufacturing supply chain strategy. Sabihin, ginagamit na siya noon pa. Manufacturing forecasts are long range, longer response time to react to marketplace changes, increased variability, bullwhip effect leading to itong bullwhip effect. So since sa pool wala tong yung bullwhip effect ay walang effect or hindi siya nag-appear sa pool process. Ito ay usually present sa push process. So kasi nagdedepende tayo sa nakarely tayo sa customer. So halimbawa hindi siya, for example, hindi siya ang target mo halimbawa is 500, then ang kinagat lang or kinuha lang na sales ni customer is halimbawa 100. Then it will affect the manufacturer kasi yung excess matutulog yon. It will affect the creation of product from the manufacturer side. So that is what we call the bullwhip effect. So for push process, present ang bullwhip effect. So kaya kung may bullwhip effect, it will lead to large inventory safety stocks, larger and more variably sized production batches, unacceptable service levels, and inventory obsolescence. Also, for the push, inefficient use of production facilities, production and distribution are demand-driven, none or little inventory held, and fast information flow mechanism. So it also decreased lead time dahil nga nagkakaroon ka ng forecasting of how yung demand na needed. And then decrease retailer inventory, decrease variability in the supply chain, and especially at manufacturer, decrease manufacturer's inventory, more efficient use of resources, and more difficult to take advantage of scale opportunity. Pero meron din tayong tinatawag na hybrid. So a hybrid of push and pull strategies to overcome disadvantages of each. So for example, the disadvantages of pull is yun nga yung delivery time niya. Then for that reason, pwedeng halimbawa ang pull mo is yung needed mo na raw mats. Or baliktad. Let's say push strategies ka, or push process ka para sa raw mats. Why? Why ginagawa? Kasi kung halimbawa ipe-predict mo na magmamahal ang raw mats, then kumuha ka na kagad. Then para naman dun sa iyong delivery or sa end of process mo, you use pull na or made to order ka na. Pero meron kang stocks na ng raw materials just in case na tumaas ang presyo. So ang tawag doon sa combination ng push and pull strategies, we call that the hybrid. So para ma-overcome natin yung disadvantages ng H, kasi kung halimbawa sa raw mats, pull din ang gagamitin mo, hindi mo alam ang takbo ng presyo ng raw materials. So maaaring tumaas siya kinabukasan dahil na pull ang ginagamit mo. Okay? Early stages of product assembly are done in a push manner. So yun nga daw, partial assembly of the product based on the aggregate demand. So pwede ka maganon. Forecast, which are more accurate than individual product demand forecast. Uncertainty is reduced, so safety stock inventory is lower. Final product assembly is done based on the customer demand for specific product configuration. Supply chain timelines determine push-pull boundary. So yan, yung nasa gitna na yon, sa pagitan ng push strategy and pull strategy, we call it the push-pull boundary. Okay. So this is yung parang ating scale for the push and pull in terms of demand uncertainty and economies of scale. For computer equipment, it just pertain na kung demand uncertainty, kung in terms of demand, mas maganda gumamit ng pull for computer equipment. Ito lang sinasabi dito. But for economies of scale, kung pull ang gagamitin mo, medyo mababa siya. For furniture, ganun din, pull advantages ang pull, mas advantages gamitin ng pull, at the same time, sa economies of scale, mas advantages ang pull. Okay? So demand is uncertain, scale economies are high, low economies of scale. Kasi syempre hindi naman lahat kailangan or mataas ang demand natin for the furniture. Yan. Now, we have the characteristic of push-pull strategies. Ito medyo summarized na. So for the objectives, ang push is minimize cost, ang pull naman is maximize service level. For complexity, ang push is high since yung gumagamit ka dito ng mga forecasting. Yung trends, you have to read the trends, the historical. Then for pull naman, since made to order to, then the complexity is low. In terms of focus, ang push is resource allocation, and yung pull naman is customer responsiveness. For lead time for push is long, pag pull naman is short. Although, yun, dahil nga made to order siya. For the process, you have supply chain planning, ang ginagamit natin for push kasi nga you anticipate everything on your network, so mas advantageous siya dito. Pag pull naman is order fulfillment. What is the need of the customer? So how many yung kailangan niya. Now, what are the drivers of supply chain performance? We have the aim, responsiveness, and efficiency at lowest possible cost. Drivers are set to improve the supply chain performance in terms of facilities, inventory, transportation, information, sourcing, and pricing. Drivers of supply chain performance, a framework of structure drivers. For logistic drivers, we have the facilities, yung inventory, saka yung transportation, yung pinakamalaga. For cross-functional drivers, we have the information, sourcing, and pricing. So for facilities, a place where inventory is stored, assembled, or fabricated. So production site or storage site or warehouse, location capacity, flexibility, responsive, several, DC close to the customer versus efficient central queue DC or in distribution center. For inventory, we have the raw materials, the work in progress, process, finished good within a supply chain. So, billing na yon, inventory policies, and the responsiveness of large inventories, efficiency, and low inventory. For transportation, moving inventory from point to point, I think it's more of the logistics. For cross-functional, we have the information, data and analysis and sharing regarding inventory, transportation, facilities, cost prices, supplier performance, demand forecast throughout the supply chain. We have the sourcing functions that are outsourced like production storage, management of information, etc. Pricing, price associated with goods and services provided by a firm to the supplier. So this is our supply chain management, a framework for structuring drivers. And then, ito is isang sample lang. Competitive strategy, everyday low price, reliable product, availability, wide variety. Paano nila na-achieve to? Through the interconnection with other networks. So, but parang nakakapag-afford sila ng mga low price, they need the participation of other networks. And that's it for the logistics, supply chain, introduction of supply chain. Do you have questions? So basically, subject natin sa supply chain management, it all boils down to that topic, is the supply chain management. So we have to dig deeper into that areas, and then makikita natin kung ano pa yung mga kailangan natin in the supply chain. May question mo tayo? Okay, let me share my second topic. So, nabanggit natin kanina yung logistics, moving from one point to another. Then, for this topic, we need to differentiate what is logistics and supply chain management. The difference with the logistics management and the supply chain management. So basically, ang logistics, or let's say we discuss first the international logistics. This is the design and management of the system that controls the forward and reverse flow of the material, services, and information into, through, and out of the international cooperation. So, it's more of the definition of logistics, except nagkaroon na siya ng word na international. So, basically, logistics is the movement na nangyayari in the supply chain management or in the supply chain mismo. So through the implementation of the international logistics, the firm can implement cost-saving programs such as just-in-time, electronic data interchange, o yung mga EDIs natin na ginagamit, and the early supply involved. There are two phases of the movement of the materials, include materials management or the timely movement of materials, parts, and supply. Number two is the physical distribution or the physical movement of the firm's physical product to its customer. So basically, yun ang binabanggit natin na we need the movement from one point to another. We also consider the time it takes to deliver from one point to another. Hindi lang to nagpo-focus sa delivery ng, let's say, for example, from the point of origin natin, halimbawa is yung sa finished product, after the finished product is being created to the point of yung kanyang destination, let's say, customer. Hindi lang yon. So, pwedeng from the supplier, ang point of origin mo, to the manufacturer for the raw materials, so on. Basta nagkaroon ng movement, we call it the logistics. Even internal, let's say from the first process to the second process, yung movement na yon, involved pa rin ang logistics. So there are three concepts of business logistics. So we have the total cost concept, the system concept, and the trade-off concept. So basically, ang sinasabi lang dito is trade-off concept, or sorry, system concept muna is the cost it takes for you to, yung cost it takes for a product to be developed. So within to sa manufacturing, for example lang. Yung trade-off naman is that the price it take from, for example, yung sa supplier to manufacturer, magkano yung presyo na yon, and then all the methods involved for doing that, personnel, yung personnel na kailangan niya, and then also dun sa end of line, each product up to the customer, yung trade-off na yon, magkano yung price nun. And then, pag pinagsama mo yung dalawang yan, system concept and the trade-off concept, we have the total cost concept. Supply chain management is the integration of business processes from end user through original supplier that provides products, services, and information that add value for the customer. Supply chain management connects the company supply side with its demand side, and it's open up the supplier relationship for companies outside of the buyer's demand. Okay. So this is the international supply chain, an example of international supply chain. So we have the transportation that is being used in the international logistics. For ocean shipping, we have the box service, the liner service, and the truck service. Ano yung difference ng tatlong yan? Although hindi ko siya, although it's part of the supply chain management, hindi ako mag-dig deeper into this topic kasi ito is more of the logistics management. So mayroong talagang subject for this one. For box service, ito yung makikita natin ng cargo ship, container vans, mga products that are being delivered in bulk. So for example, nickel, mga minerals na ginagamit. For example, isang box ng nickel, halimbawa, yung ginagamit sa barya, or halimbawa, oil, pwede din nga sa box service. Pag liner service naman, is more of, ganun din, delivery din ang purpose niya, but ito ay point-to-point. So parang kung sa layman's, ito ay yung P2P. So for example, from Batangas Port, halimbawa lang from Batangas Port to Mindoro. So point-to-point lang, yun lang yung direction niya. Pag tram service, ito is to any point. So yung kung liner service is point-to-point, ito naman to any point. So yun lang yung basically yung pagkakaiba nila. We also have a type of transportation which is the air freight. So air freight is available to and from most countries, including the developing world. International air freight is expected to grow to 190 billion tons in 2005 compared to only 70 billion tons in 1995. 40% of the world's manufactured travel by air, and items that are high value or high density tend to travel by air. So ang air freight in characteristic, siya ang pinakamabilis, pero siya din ang pinakamahal. Compare sa motor vehicle, sa ocean, sa sea freight, railroads, and yung mga hybrid. So, si air freight pa rin ang pinakamahal, pero siya ang pinakamabilis. Okay. So, consideration for selecting a mode of transport. So, based on kasi may kanya-kanyang advantage and disadvantages yan. So, for example, si railroad, yung unavailability of rails, yun yung kanyang weakness, yun yung kanyang disadvantage. Ocean, sea freight, sa mga ocean vehicles, ang disadvantage naman niya is yung time for it to deliver an item. So, yun naman yung kanyang disadvantages. So, paano tayo nagsiselect ngayon ng consideration for selecting a mode of transport? We have 5. I think 5 to. Sorry, hanggang na pa. So we have 4. We have the transit time, the predictability, the cost, and non-economic factors. So in transit time, ibig sabihin gano'ng katagal. Yung cost is yung price it takes. Yung predictability is yung kanyang kakayahan na mag-deliver ng item. So, for example, in case of air freight, anong predictability na ma-deliver niya yung item? And non-economic factors, we also need to consider. So based on halimbawa, for example, I need to slash yung non-economic factor based on the 3. Ano kaya yung pinaka-priority natin na i-consider from selecting a mode of transport? Yung cost ba, yung transit time ba, or yung predictability? Ano yung sa tingin niyo, pinakamahalaga dyan and why? Anyone? I hear the voice. Anyone, please? Anyone? Ano kaya yung parang ipa-priority natin na factors in selecting a mode of transport from the 3, cost, transit time, and predictability? Nakikinig pa ba kayo?
Sir, ano nga po ulit yung question po?
Ano din yung parang ipa-priority mo for selecting a mode of transport? For example, priority ko ba na yung transit time because of the time it took? Ano ba yung parang ipa-priority natin? Ano muna i-consider natin pala when selecting a mode of transport?
Sir, para po sa akin, yung sa predictability po. Kasi po, sir, yung sa predictability po, parang makakaapekto na din, maaano na din niya po kasi yung cost tsaka yung transit time din po. Kasi po, kunyari po, i-predict mo po na parang 3 days po, makakarating na po yung supply or yung delivery po dun sa dapat niya pong puntahan. Then dun po may estimate na din po natin yung possible cost niya po and then yung estimated time po na pwede pong makarating yung delivery po. Ayun lang po.
Parang ang sinasabi mo dito is the assurance na madi-deliver your item. Kasi yun yung predictability. Kasi yung predictability is more of the reliability ng isa-select mo na transport. So for example,
Opo.
the sea freight ang gagamitin mo, let's say liner vehicle ka, liner service ka. So ano ba yung chance niya na mapipredict? Kasi ang constraint niya when it comes to reliability ng ocean is yung mga unforeseen weather disturbances. Like kung halimbawa merong talagang storm, and most likely hindi na matuloy ang biyahe. So yun yung parang ito consider natin. Although, yun nga, merong mga advantage and advantages yan for sea freight. Ang sea freight ang pinakamura naman. Kung ang air freight ang pinakamahal, pinakamabilis, ang sea freight ang pinakamura at pinakamatagal na delivery. So yun. So kung ako naman tatanungin, thank you Camille for answering the question.
Thank
Ako
you po.
naman tatanungin, I simply would like to consider the cost. Kasi syempre, kailangan ma-compromise ko pa rin ano yung magiging impact ng logistics sa aking business. But for the customer's perspective, sa kanila, pinakamahalaga is the transit time. Kasi syempre, kailangan ma-deliver sa kanila yung item as soon as possible or the most least time it took for them to have the item. So we have the bill of lading. Ito is for so since naka-concentrate tong subject na to, yung topic na to sa international logistics, we have the bill of lading or yung mga expert documentations that are needed. So we have the bill of lading. It is a contract between the exporter and the carrier indicating that the carrier has the responsibility for the goods and will provide transportation in return for the payment. So it's more of an insurance between the exporter and the carrier. Insurance na exporter that the item will be delivered. And then kung ano yung mga sanction just in case nagkaroon ng problem. We have the commercial invoice. Is the bill for the goods stating basic information about the transaction, including the description of the merchandise, total cost of the goods sold, addresses of the shipper, seller, and the delivery and payment of term. In short, it is the receipt. And the freight forwarder specialized in handling the export documentation. So we have the international inventory issues like the inventories tied up with the major portion of the corporate funds. Therefore, proper inventory policies should be a major concern to the international logistician. We have the just-in-time inventory policies minimize the volume of the inventory by making it available only when needed. And the purpose of establishing inventory systems are to maintain the product movement in the delivery pipeline and to have a cushion to absorb demand fluctuations. Okay, so we have the three factors that decide the level of inventory. We have the desired service level, customer service level, use of inventory as a strategic tool, and the order cycle. For international packaging issues, packaging is instrumental in getting the merchandise to the destination in a safe, presentable condition. So yun pa rin yung pinaka parang problema sa international packaging. We need it since galing pa yan sa ibang bansa, then we need to secure yung item in such a way that even magkaroon ng changes in the modes of transportation, kasi usually talagang combination of transportation ang magiging mangyayari. So because of the added stress to the international shipping, packaging that is adequate for domestic shipping may not be inadequate or may be inadequate for international shipping. So packaging consideration that should be taken into account are environmental condition and weight. So one solution to the packaging problem has been the development of intermodal containers. So ito sinabi natin intermodal, ito is parang hybrid type of transportation. So for example, ang pinakamagandang example nito is yung Roro. Yung alam niyo ba yung Roro, yung sa dagat, yung nagsasakay siya ng sasakyan. So hybrid siya in some way that uses two modes or 2 to 3 modes of transportation, except hindi na nagkakaroon ng transfer ng product. Kasi for example, si truck na may laman ng items, pwede na siya sumampa dun sa Roro. And then, pag nakalapag na si Roro dun sa destination niya, pwede nang bumaba ng truck. So, nawawala yung transfer ng item from one mode of transportation to another mode of transportation. Kasi nakasecure lang siya dun sa isang lugar, dun sa truck halimbawa, tapos yung truck na lang ang nag-a-adjust na mag-adapt dun sa magiging next mode of transportation. So yung Roro yung the best example for intermodal containers. Cost attention must be paid to international packaging. For storage facilities, a stationary period is involved when merchandise becomes inventory stored in warehouses. So ito yung parang nagiging problema din kapag international logistics is yung international warehouse. So the location decision address how many distribution center to have and where to locate them. Since medyo expensive ang international logistics, so hindi siya pang mga few items lang. So all of the items must be involved. So nagkakaroon talaga ng storage facilities. The storage facilities abroad can differ in availability and quantity. Depende din pa rin sa atin yan. The logistician should analyze international product sales and then rank order according to warehousing needs. So kailangan pa rin natin magkaroon ng warehouse management kasi kailangan pa rin ni logistician na malaman kung ano ang mga i-stock niya ng marami or i-stock niya ng konti. We have to solve also yung mga problems with international logistics, nagkakaroon ng special trade zones. So foreign trade zones are areas where foreign goods may be held or processed and re-exported without incurring duties. Usually, nagkakaroon ng waive in the taxes. Therefore, yung item, kapag na-deliver siya from that country, nagiging cheaper siya. So it's being deducted by other charges. Pag international transaction, usually mataas ang tax. So pag under special trade zones, nakakat yung mga ano na yan. And then trade zones can be useful as transshipment points to reduce logistics costs and redesign marketing approaches. Governments and firms benefit from the foreign trade zones. Yes. So we have the export processing zones and economic zones. Usually marami ito sa Pilipinas. In an export processing zone, special rule apply that are different in other countries. Those zones usually provide tax-free and duty-free treatment for production facilities whose output is destined abroad. So meron tayong mga ganito, yung mga pesa natin. Like for example, pinakamalapit sa atin ngayon is yung sa Carmona. Nalimutan ko yung name. Basta yun sa Carmona, meron dyan mga factory dyan that is under the export processing zone. So, yung mga item nila, yung mga product na na-develop nila or na manufacture nila is not directly needed by the country. So, yun ay i-deliver. That is intended for other country. So, yung process na yun, kung everyday ibig sabihin, kung magkakaroon ng transaction between this country to other countries, it will take time. But under the export processing zone, nawawala na yung process na yun. Okay. Yan ay meron ng agreement. So these zones usually provide tax-free and duty-free treatment for production facilities whose output is destined abroad. The maquiladoras of Mexico are one example of the program that permits firms to take advantage of sharp differential in labor costs. Through the creation of the special economic zones, the Chinese government has attracted many foreign investors, bringing millions of dollars. Dahil din dito, same with the Chinese, it brings many foreign investors to invest in our country. At the same time, it created jobs. So kaya ito ay advantages din sa ating bansa. We have the centralized logistic management that is applicable in international logistics. The existence of headquarters staff that retains decision-making over the logistics is important. For centralized logistic management, meron lang siyang headquarters that yung movement ng decision-making will be from the headquarters only. Then, i-disseminate niya yan sa kanyang mga yung sa other places niya or other locations. Yung decentralized naman is, yung decentralized naman is kabalitaran ng centralized where merong headquarters. Dito naman, independent ang decision-making. Then, what is advantages from one place can be applied to other. Outsourcing logistics services if kailangan mo or kailangan mo ng need for an external output or yung magpa-process ng iyong responsibilities, you can do the outsourcing. And then the supply chain and the internet. So it's more of before supply chain needs an IT or an IT software. Now it can be also integrated in the internet. And then from that to the establishment of the internet, pwede na tayo magkaroon ng mga benchmarking with the other supply chains that can be beneficial. We have the logistics and security. After the terrorist attack of 2001, companies have to deal with the fact that the pace of international transactions would slow down, that the formerly routine steps will now take longer. So since merong ng banta, so meron tayong logistics and security. Especially kung halimbawa ang ating transaction is through the internet and cloud, meron pa rin yang kailangan security. And for the environment, kailangan mag-undergo pa rin siya under the environmental rules. Yun lang naman sinasabi. And then that's it for the supply chain management or the supply chain versus the logistics. Have questions?
Wala naman po, sir.
Ako, sir, wala naman po.
Okay. I need to present 3 topics for supply chain management. Sorry, medyo maghabol. Kasi medyo marami yung topic. So let me just present my So we have the, if you don't have any question, then let me proceed with the other topic. Okay, so sabi ko nga kanina, supply chain management, doon lang ikot ang ating topic. Then, other topics that are being discussed is coming from the supply chain management. So, for our third topic, we will discuss the CRM, or the customer relationship management. So, since we need to discuss, or we are discussing the integrations of the components, then one of the components that are being discussed is the customer. So we need to discuss the customer relationship. So what is CRM? So CRM is a business strategies that aim to understand, anticipate, and manage the needs of an organization current and potential. Customers. It is a comprehensive approach which provides seamless integration of every area of business that touches the customer, namely marketing, sales, customer service, and field control. Support through the integration of people, process, and technology. So CRM is a shift from traditional markets as it focuses on the retention of the customer in addition to the acquisition of new customers. The expression CRM is becoming standard terminology, replacing what is widely perceived to be misleading narrow-term relationship marketing. So basically, yung CRM tends to understand or to look at the perspective of the customer. So you need to establish the customer relationship. Basically, that is what CRM means. But the definition of the CRM is concerned with the creation, development, and enhancement of individualized customer relationship with carefully target customer. So yun talaga yung kanya sinasabi, carefully target customer and customer groups resulting in maximizing their total customer lifetime. So hindi siya holistic approach na pag sinabi mong customer, all of the customers that yung customer mismo, the end user, sila lang yung involved. Ay, sila yung involved. Rather, you need to select lang yung magiging targeted customer mo. And from there, you need to take the customer relationship management. The purpose is the creating value for the customer and the company over the longer term. You need to have the establish the connection. And when customers value the customer service that they receive from supplier, they are less likely to look to alternative suppliers for their needs. So yun naman yung nagiging effect. And then CRM enables organization to gain competitive advantage over competitors that supply similar products or services. Just like what the output of the supply chain management. So yung competitive advantage pa rin is what we are looking for. So why is it important? Today's businesses compete with multi-products offerings created and delivered by network alliances and partnership of many clients. So both retaining customers and building relationship with other value-adding allies is critical to corporate performance. The adoption of CRM is being fueled by the recognition that long-term relationship with customers are one of the most important assets of the organization. So in logistics management, then, logistics management, meron din tayong CRM doon. But we are not calling it as CRM. For logistics management, we call it the reverse logistics. So yun, nandun naman yung process of how you can connect with your customer. CRM developed for a number of reasons. First is the 1920 onwards saw rapid shift in business that changed customer power. Supply exceeded demands for most products. Sellers had little pricing power, and the only protection available to suppliers of goods and services was in the relationship with the customer. What does CRM involve? So there are 4. Organization must be customer focused. Organization must be prepared to adapt so that it takes customer needs into account and deliver them. So yun talaga yung basically ang kailangan natin. Hindi lang tayo nakikinig sa what customer wants. We need to adapt what is the need of the customer. What is needed by the customer. And market research must be undertaken to assess customer needs and satisfaction. Customer relationship, strategically significant customer relationship management focuses on strategically significant markets. So not all customers are equally important. Yun naman yung sinasabi natin kanina pa. Hindi dapat holistic ang approach na. We need to select. Therefore, relationship should be built with customers that are likely to provide values for service. Building relationship with customers that will provide little value would result in a loss of time, staff, and financial resources. Strategically significant customer need to satisfy at least one of the 3 conditions. Customer with a high lifetime values, customer that will repeatedly use the service in a long term. For example, nurses in a hospital library. So, syempre, sila talaga yung target mong customer. Customer who serve as benchmark for other customers. For example, in hospital library consultants who teach on academic courses. So, hindi siya talaga nurse, but rather a teacher. And number 3, customer who inspire change in the supplier. For the information, the IT and the CRM, technology plays a pivotal role in the CRM. Technological approaches involving the use of databases, data mining, and one-on-one marketing can assist organizations to increase customer value and their own profitability. This type of technology can be used to keep a record of the customer names and contact details in addition to their history of buying products or using services. So basically, yung IT is also involved in the customer relationship management. So mas nagiging mabilis ang approach when dealing with the customer relationship. At the same time, mas nagiging reachable ang customers kapag nag-apply tayo. Yun. Dahil nga sa paggamit ng phone calls, emails, mobile phones, text messages, or WAP services. Okay. A cookie is a parcel of text sent by a server to a web browser, sent back unchanged by the browser each time it accesses that server. So HTTP cookies are used for authenticating, tracking, and maintaining specific information about user, such as the site preferences and the contents of the electronic shopping cart. So from the cookies kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng resibo kung ano yung madalis na pinupuntahan, ano yung preferred ni customer. So kaya minsan, di ba, pag kayo ay nag-i-internet, di ba, nagsisearch kayo, nagbabrowse, may nakita kayong site, for example, may nakalagay lang doon, accept all cookies, gano'n. So pag in-accept mo yon, magkakaroon ka ng footprint sa server, meaning that you are interested. For example, lalo na kung mga news yan, halimbawa, kung mga news, nagkakaroon kayo ng footprint na you are interested in that kind of news. Halimbawa, mas mahilig ka pala sa showbiz. So nagkakaroon ka ng footprint. We call it the cookies. That's why kapag tayo ay nagdi-delete ng history, kasama ang cookies. Kasi doon nagkakaroon tayo ng footprint. Not just the website we usually visit, but also yung interest natin. Doon yun sa cookies. Cookie. Okay? The loyalty cards. Another example of this is yung sa parang EDI na rin to. Yung loyalty cards, like for example, yung SM Advantage card and other cards, yung mga rewards card. And the CRM software, the front office solution. Meron tayong selective na tinatawag yung face-to-face CRM. Tinatawag. CRM can also be carried out in face-to-face interaction without the use of technology. So staff members often remember the names and favorite service products of regular customer and use them information to create a personalized service for them. So parang selective. For example, in a hospital library, you will know the name of the nurses that will come in often and probably remember the area that they work in. So for that, yun na yung target mo na mag-build ng customer relationship. However, face-to-face CRM could prove less useful when an organization have a large number of customers. Kasi parang nangyayari dito, kung large customer ka, baka magkaroon ka ng mga false positive. Ibig sabihin, tinarget mo siya, pero tinarget mo siya as to build the customer relationship. However, hindi naman pala siya dapat yung tinatarget mo na customer. Okay? And then, it will be difficult to remember details about each of them. So, yun lang din. Benefits of CRM, reduce costs because the right things are being done effectively and efficiently. Increase customer satisfaction because they are getting exactly what they want. Ensuring that the focus of the organization is external, growth in numbers of customers, maximization of opportunities, increase access to a source of market and competitor information, highlighting the poor operational processes and long-term profitability and sustainability. And that's it. Sorry, meron pa pala isa. Implementing CRM. When introducing or developing CRM, a strategic review of the organization current position should be undertaken. What is our core business and how will it evolve in the future? What form of CRM is appropriate for our business now and in the future? What IT infrastructure do we need and what do we need to support the future organization needs? And what vendor and partner do we need to choose? Okay. Question? May question ba tayo? Question. Kung wala, then ako yung magtatanong. So why is it that, diba, ang topic natin is supply chain management. Why is it that we tend to discuss first the customer relationship? Bakit yan ang pinakauna natin? Well, it's supposed to be, it should be at the end. Kasi we're pertaining to the customer. Ito yung parang dulo na dapat. Pero in the supply chain management, bakit siya ang unang topic natin? Why is it being prioritized? Anyone? Yun.
Kasi po, sir, kumbaga, parang, alam po natin na point to point po yung supply chain from the raw materials up to the consumer. So, bali po, kumbaga, siya po yung pinaka-consider natin, siya po yung major na consider natin kasi po, kumbaga, yung mga points po natin, kailangan po natin malimits yung time, cost, para hanggang sa makarating po sa kanya po. So,
Bali, kumbaga, beneficial si customer. So that's why siya yung priority. Other than that, pa yung kanyang first reason natin, bakit yan yung inuuna natin? Anyone? Other answer? Bakit kaya customer relationship management kagad ang inuna nating topic sa supply chain management? Can I hear other voices aside from Camille and June?
Ako po, sir. As ayun
Okay.
po, sir. Bali po, sir, important po yung sa customer, ano, customer po. Customer, ay tama po ba? Ay, pa-repeat nga po ng
Relationship.
question. Sorry po.
Yan, customer relationship. Bakit siya yung inuna natin?
Ayan po, sir. Bali po kasi, sir, yung relationship po, ang connect niya po sa sa supply chain management po is parang siya po yung nagbibigay ng value po doon sa po, mismong supply chain po. Ano po kasi siya, sir? Parang siya din po kasi, sir, yung nagbibigay po ng sales po by by para pong binibigay, dine-determine po yung satisfaction po ng customer po na possible po na mag-increase po ng profit po ng isang supply chain po.
Tama naman. Kasi, although hindi ganun yung gusto kong sagot, pero I got your point. Ibig sabihin kasi, kaya inuna natin ng customers, sorry, may answer si ako, sabi niya, the demand and demand or customers demand is determined first. Demand is just to know how much supply will be needed. Kung iwasan ng overproduction. Yeah, I got you. But sige, ang reason kung bakit customer relationship management doon na natin, kasi that is the goal of the supply chain management. Si customer talaga ang kanyang target kung bakit tayo nagsusupply chain management. Why? Because we needed the customer satisfaction, that is what we do, and the reduction of cost coming from the satisfaction that we get from our customers. So pinakamahalaga sa supply chain management is the customer relationship. Yung customer relationship. That is why ang priority natin or ang talagang goals natin is the customer. Thank you for your answers. Okay, so that's it for our supply chain management for our first meeting supply chain management. Medyo mahaba yung ating discussion, but I guess meron kayo natutunan from the first three topics. Now, going to sabi ko, I want to discuss also the other subject. So I needed you for the coursework, right? For the coursework subject. So for our coursework project, sabi ko kay Camille prior to our meeting, siguro you will be grouped into 3 members, just like what you did in the feasibility study. So 53 groups pa rin tayo. Pero this one, for the coursework, hindi to, we're not focusing on the marketing aspect. Kasi kung yun, yung feasibility study na rin ang gagawin natin. We're dealing with the issues of the industrial engineering topics. So that is what coursework is about, para tayong gumagawa ng mini thesis. So we need kung yung ginawa natin last time is the proposal, wherein ang first 3 parts lang ng thesis yung important sa atin, which is the introduction, the literature, and the methodology. For our coursework, we need all of the components: the introduction, the related literature, the methodology, and the analysis, the resultant discussion, and the conclusion. Conclusion and recommendation. So that is the components of the coursework. So for you to comply with that, I will let you group yourselves into 3. So, kung gagamitin niyo uli yung grupo niyo dun sa feasibility studies, it's fine with me, kayo na mag-group. Basta one group composed of 3 members.
Sir,
So, yes.
sir, banggitin ko lang po. Bali po, sir, may sobra po kasing isa. So, yung isang group po, 4 members po.
Yes. Pwede naman.
Okay. Thank you po.
Okay, and then, three members, one group. Siguro, pumili na kayo ngayon pa lang yung talagang, ano na, yung parang core members niya na para wala na tayong issues sa bandang dulo. At medyo matagal ang paggawa ng coursework. Okay? So I will discuss the parts of the coursework, siguro one meeting for that. And then, ang process natin for the coursework is that mag-represent kayo, each group, ng 3 topics that is related to IE. And then, siguro, hindi na tayo I suggest that hindi na tayo more of experimental coursework. Okay, what I was saying is kung experimental yan, you need analysis, ganon, yung mga hardcore IEs, the research of IE. Hindi na tayo going to that. So maybe product development and then magkakaroon na kayo ng survey. What I want for your coursework is talaga yung survey. So yun talaga yung parang inyong magiging output. Dalian na lang natin para hindi siya masyadong burden sa inyo. Kasi kung face-to-face sana tayo papayagan ko yung experimental coursework. But for since online pa rin tayo, ang kailangan ko lang is yung descriptive analysis or magkakaroon kayo ng survey. So you need to present 3 topics. I will choose one of which I will schedule the presentation sa kanila lang. I-schedule natin. And then, kung ano yung mapiling topic, then you can work on that. So, dalawang presentation na mangyayari. The presentation of title and then same time the presentation of the coursework. Okay. Question for the coursework, yung components, parts, I will discuss it later. Sa mga succeeding natin na meeting. Okay, question? May question ba tayo?
Wala naman po, sir.
Okay. Now, how are you going to be evaluated? So, hindi na rin tayo kukuha ng external evaluator. So, ako na lang din ang inyong maging evaluator for all of your submissions. Okay? So, yun lang. So, output-based din ang coursework, just like the feasibility study. So, kailangan meron pa rin tayong magpuproduce na coursework. Okay, na naman. Okay, if wala ng questions, siguro I will just have to needed your open your cam for our. Yes, may defense siya. So ang defense niya is yung preliminary, the defense of the title, and then the defense for the coursework itself. Okay, please turn on your camera for our documentation. Thank you. May ka-office ko. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Dalawang frame. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone. See you next week for our next topic for the supply chain.
Thank you, sir.
If meron kayong question uli, okay. Meron kayong question sa coursework uli, paki-address na lang kay Camille or i-send nyo na lang or i-address nyo na lang next meeting. Okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you na. Thank you.